Looks like we've got audience. So I am going to start today's webinar. I am so pleased to be here with all of y'all and ASID Michigan. We are doing this by GoToWebinar, as you all know, because you've all logged into it. And so I want to know that you are seeing and hearing properly. So please raise your hand if you can hear me, and that way I will know we are off to a pretty good start. Thank you. Okay, I see that y'all can hear me. Good. As you know, I am Susan Inglis. I direct Sustainable Furnishings Council. And like I said, I'm just so pleased to be here with you today for this CEU. Now, I am going to be reporting your attendance through IDCEC. If you have your IDCEC membership under a different name, you'll have to let me know, because I'm going to be looking for you under the name that you've registered for this as. And I do want to hear from you with any questions you might have or any comments. So as I'm going through this hour's discussion, please put into the chat box or the question box whatever questions you've got. And at the end, I will read and respond. Let's see, I think there is, let me just be sure. Yes, okay, good. So I'm going to get started now with a bit of an introduction about Sustainable Furnishings Council. We are a membership organization. We are at the beginning of our 15th year now, having been formed a little over 14 years ago. And we are a coalition of companies that are involved in the residential furnishings industry in various ways. So our members include interior design firms like some of y'all, and stores where residential furnishings are sold, large, medium, and small stores, manufacturers of all kinds of furnishings products, and suppliers of materials that are used to make these things. Each of these companies has made their own public and verifiable commitment to sustainability and to transparency and to continuous improvement. And we as an organization help our 400 or so member companies realize their own commitment to sustainability. It does vary company to company what different organizations are focusing on, and we think that's fine, because the planet is in enough trouble that we all need to start where we are and go forward. So we're very pleased to provide guidance and resources and education and marketing support to members wherever they are on their journey and to the industry at large. Besides our membership, we have a robust educational programming. We really are an educational organization more than anything else. And as some of you know, our Green Leaders class is a certificate program that we offer, 6 hours, 6 continuing education units. So if you are interested in the kind of thing we're talking about today, I hope you'll join us for Green Leaders. We do offer it online. It's recorded, so you can take it anytime you like at your own pace. So I hope you'll be interested in today's topic and that you'll join us for more. Let's see. As you probably also know, but just to get us on the same page, sustainability is an umbrella term. And there are many, many issues that fall under this wide umbrella of sustainability. It is about taking care of the ecosystems on our planet, about taking care of the communities that depend upon those ecosystems, and about taking care of the economies that support those communities. So there are lots of specific issues, but they all relate to that triple bottom line of sustainability. We are concerned about all of them, and we do tend to focus our efforts where we believe we can make the biggest difference the most immediately. This is important because the furniture industry relates directly to the range of sustainability issues. We are a global manufacturing industry, so we burn lots of fossil fuel in generating electricity and in transporting goods and materials first and then goods hither and yon. One of the materials that we use the most of is wood. And so we have a particular responsibility for halting deforestation. We, of course, are inclined in this industry with all the products we make to put finishes on most everything. And we use a lot of glues in the manufacture of our products. So those volatile organic compounds, which are in many adhesives and finishes, come out and compromise the quality of our indoor air, and that is something we have responsibility for as well. Those VOCs, like formaldehyde, are not the only hazardous chemical that we are contending with in our industry. There are 5 of them that are very common in furnishings, all of which persist in the environment and all of which cause harm to human health and to other life on the planet. As they persist, sometimes they result in toxic waste pollution. The textiles industry is particularly chemical intensive. When you are looking at a pound of textiles, you are looking at 1 to 10 pounds of chemical inputs, whether the chemicals are present in the fabric when you're using it for upholstery or not. It takes a lot to make a fabric. And it also takes a lot to make leather. And some of the chemicals used in leather production sometimes cause severe water pollution. So these are things we need to be careful that we're not inadvertently contributing to. Another problem we would not want to be contributing to is forced labor, which is still used for cotton cultivation in 19 countries, according to the ILO. And finally, there is a lot of furniture that is thrown away. And of course, there is no away. It goes somewhere. These large items are being thrown into our landfills, which are all overcrowded and where it is a problem. So our work aims to address these sorts of problems, and we do it with initiatives. The What's It Made Of initiative is to encourage transparency in our supply chains and to stimulate innovation towards the elimination of the harmful chemicals most commonly found in furnishings, which are these. We are currently doing a survey of interior designers, and I hope you have all received the link. You will certainly receive it after this presentation if you have not. The survey is to find out what you know about where these occur and what you know about the impact they can have on our health. There are no wrong answers. Our goal is just to find out, because we are working on developing even more good educational programming for you. So we really want to know where we are now, what you are starting with as far as understanding goes. Another important initiative we have is the Wood Furniture Scorecard, in which we are assessing retailers for on their wood sourcing policies. So do they talk with their manufacturers in careful conversations to be sure that they are not inadvertently contributing to deforestation? Do they have a wood sourcing policy? Are they implementing it well? And are they being loud about it? Are they making it known to their customers and community? The results of the 2020 Wood Furniture Scorecard will be announced soon on October 15th in another webinar. So I hope you'll join us for that one as well. Our work, y'all, is very important because our planet is rather in trouble. What we are looking at here is a video of weather anomalies that have occurred since the beginning early in the Industrial Revolution, and this only goes up to 2014, but you can see that there have been many more warmer than normal, than cooler than normal weather events. And since 2014, we have had the hottest years on record. So this is a problem, and it's only getting worse. As a matter of fact, temperatures have increased 2 degrees since 1900, and the next 2 degrees is expected within the next 10 years or less. And the temperatures are expected to be up a total of 5 to 12 degrees by the end of this century. Why is this happening? It is happening because of CO2 emissions, which the CO2 emissions are one of several greenhouse gases that are the result of our agro-industrial processes, the result of modern life. But CO2 is the main greenhouse gas. The impact, in fact, of carbon dioxide emissions is equal to everything else that we humans are causing, so, or that is affecting the changes in climate and all. So if we can only address that one problem, we will be in better shape. So it's important that we know where carbon dioxide emissions are coming from. Mostly, they are coming from our burning fossil fuels. Burning fossil fuels, which we do to generate electricity and for transportation, accounts for 85% of CO2 emissions globally. But deforestation, which, as I said, we have a large responsibility for, accounts for a further 15%. And that's the next largest chunk. So the two largest chunks of sources of CO2 emissions, we in our industry have a lot of power to influence. That's outdoor air pollution. Indoor air quality is also a very big deal, and it is in fact the main health concern of your customers and clients. Asthma patients are especially vulnerable to poor indoor air quality, but others are as well. Anybody undergoing chemotherapy, for instance, is going to be more bothered than a healthy person by the volatile organic compounds which are off-gassing into our indoor environments. Children especially are vulnerable, and as you can see, asthma rates among children are going way up. You know, these days, all of us are indoors at home more often than we used to be. I am speaking to you from indoors at home because of the COVID-19 era that we are in, and that has raised awareness among many of us of how our indoor air quality might be impacting our health. We have done a series of consumer research studies over the last 10 years or so, and I'm going to share with you some of the results of those studies. And we were planning on doing another wave of this research earlier this year, but we decided that with the COVID phenomenon, it would probably skew results. So we're waiting. So know that these results are a couple of years old, but I believe that they're still interesting for you. So like I said, we've been doing this research for about 10 years. And when we started, about half of all the furniture buying consumers we talked to, and this is among people who have bought furnishings products within the last year, about half of them were concerned about any sustainability issue we asked them about. Now notice that almost all of them are. And when we drill down about the two key issues that we know we can have a big impact on in our industry, and ask them how worried they are about the issues of hazardous indoor air quality and about the issue of global warming, we find that people are really, really concerned. And we find that they are acting out of their concern, and the way that they're acting often has something to do with the choices they make at home or the choices they make in shopping. So that's pretty interesting, and again points to the power that we have. They are buying products that they consider eco-friendly. 87% of these people have bought eco-friendly products, but the percentage of home furnishings among those products is relatively low. So we asked them, since you're interested in eco-friendly products, why have you not bought them? And by far, the majority of people are still not aware that they exist. There are others that think they're too expensive or can't find them where they shop, probably because they don't ask for them, etc. I'll tell you something very interesting. In recent years, we have seen this concern that the, oops, so sorry, y'all, so sorry. We've seen this concern about cost going down and an interest in doing what's right going up. So we are seeing a growing interest in eco-friendly home furnishings specifically. What are eco-friendly home furnishings then? That is what we're going to talk about for a little while here, and then I'm going to answer your questions. So please do put your notes in the questions box as we go along. As I said, wood is a significant material for us in the residential furnishings industry, and it is a significant material as far as taking care of the planet goes. We in the furniture industry are the #3 user of the wood resource. The wood resource comes from natural forests, and it comes from plantations, and it comes from reclaimed wood, for instance. Those are places where it is coming from. And all these different sources are not equal. Forests are very, very important for addressing climate change and for keeping our water clean. Here in the US, 30% of us are drinking water that is coming from our taps that is filtered through forest systems. So the health of the forests of the world is important for us locally and is, of course, very important globally. What threatens the health of forest? A big thing that threatens the health of forest is illegal logging, or when it is not as much as illegal logging, but just poor management of forest systems. These things can contribute to the loss of forest systems. Now, there was good news about 10 years ago when the Lacey Act was amended to enforce laws for environmental protection all around the world. So as y'all probably know, it is illegal to import or trade in any way any plant-based product, including wood furniture, that has broken any laws of any country anywhere. So that is making a difference in keeping us from having some illegally logged wood entering commerce, and that's good. But still, 15% of the hardwood that you will see when you're shopping for furniture is illegally logged. And that is a problem because it threatens the health of the forest. And just so you know what illegal logging is, it is when someone goes in and takes out a tree, such as a tree that we in the furniture industry just love to use, maybe mahogany in the wild, and doesn't get permits for it. So the forest that that tree is growing in is threatened by that. You know, there are environmental protection laws in every country in the world, but there is corruption in some parts of the world when the people who enforce the laws are not paid well and respected for the job that they do. So this is a problem, and I want y'all to know about solutions to it. When you are buying wood, especially from the tropics, please look for Forest Stewardship Council certified wood. Those FSC standards are the most robust for forest protection. They cover a triple bottom line range of attributes. So they are watching out not only for the forest ecosystem, but for the people who are frequently the ones who are living right there in the forest and exploited when the forest is exploited. And the Forest Stewardship Council certification makes sure that those people are empowered and paid well. Now, another really good choice in wood is North American wood. Here in North America, we have most of our forest owned by private landowners, most of whom are logging selectively within the legal bounds for profit. And so they are making sure that their forests regenerate so that their children can also log those woods for profit. So that North American wood is generally a good choice. Sometimes you will find that the product is made of North American wood in some far distant country. So to think holistically, you want to consider whether the wood is used in fairly local manufacture or not. As I said, plantation are another big source of woods that we use in our industry. And plantation woods are grown for the wood itself, like a lot of pine, for instance, is grown for the wood itself. But plantations are also for other sources, such as mango plantations for producing that fruit, and rubber wood plantations for producing the latex that we use in tires and paint and foam and all sorts of stuff. When a plantation wood that is for some other purpose, like a mango plantation, when the trees stop bearing fruit after 15, 20 years, the farmer has to replace that tree. And being able to use the wood for furniture manufacture gives him more value for his farm. Rubber wood is the same sort of way. Now, I want to touch on recycled wood, reclaimed wood that might come out of old buildings. And it might, you can also think in terms of furniture that is being refurbished. So recycled, reclaimed is always a good idea. It's going to save resources, wood and everything else. But what I want to be sure you know is that more and more reclaimed wood is making its way into regular lumber supply chains. So if you are a furniture maker, you can ask your distributors if they can provide you with reclaimed wood that is like the new wood they would provide you with, just plain in boards. Dimensional lumber is a new product in reclaimed wood. Now we are going to talk about leather. Leather is a material that people have strong opinions about. Leather is a byproduct of the meat production industry. The meat production industry itself is one of the large threats to our forests. It does take a lot of land to raise cattle. And it takes a lot of land because partly it takes a lot of land to feed cattle. And so, so leather does impact forest ecosystems in that way. Further, cows produce methane, like all mammals do, produce methane, which is a very heavy greenhouse gas. And that is, of course, contributing. The more cows we have, the more it's contributing to greenhouse gas emissions and the problem of global warming. There are also, as I said earlier, concerns about how leather is processed. Most of the world's cows live in South America, especially in Brazil, whereas we all know there's a problem with deforestation. Sometimes the whole process, cow to leather sofa, happens in that country, but frequently only the first part happens there, and the hides are only minimally processed with these chromium salts that are used for the initial process. It's a toxic heavy metal, and if it's being used in a country that is not having strict enforcement of its environmental protection laws, it can leach into waterways and cause problems for everybody downstream. Chromium salts are deadly. So sometimes most often the hides are exported in this wet blue state to another country, say Italy, to be tanned into a beautiful soft leather and a pretty color. Sometimes used all the way to being a piece of furniture there, but sometimes exported to be made into a piece of furniture somewhere in Asia, where sometimes the furniture is used there, but sometimes, in fact, most often of the leather furniture used here in North America, the furniture is further exported till it gets to us here in North America, where it enters on the West Coast and is transported right the way across the country. So you can hear that leather has a large environmental footprint. Those are the problems. But leather lasts a long time. Leather lasts a very long time, and it is a fairly clean material once it is leather. So even though it lasts a long time, you can hand down your leather chair to your children and grandchildren. If the chair is left outside and it does decompose, that leather is going to decompose in a clean way. It's not going to result in any toxic waste at that point. So those are some things about leather. And I do recommend that you find out where does the leather come from and where is the product made. Many people learning that much about leather or not are very interested in textiles as an alternative. A lot of the textiles we use in residential furnishings and for our clothing is petroleum-based. Polyester is the most used fiber in the world. Polyester can be recycled, and some of it that we are sitting on or wearing is recycled, but most of it is not. Anything that is petroleum-based takes a lot of chemical inputs, and so as I said earlier, there are lots, 10 to 100% of the weight of the fabric comes from the chemical inputs into making that fabric. If it is a petroleum-based fabric, it's going to be on the high end of that. If it is a natural fabric, it's going to be on the lower end of that, but there are a lot of hazardous chemicals used in cotton cultivation as well as in the production of the cotton fabric. And so it is important that we think about how we can mitigate this toxic waste pollution that comes from our fabrics. And one way we can do it, especially for cotton, is look for certified organic. The Global Organic Textile Standard or the IRCA standard, which comes in different levels, are both very good standards for certifying that the fibers were grown without hazardous chemicals and that the product was made without harmful chemical inputs. There are other natural fibers that naturally require fewer chemical inputs. For instance, linen and hemp, which are fibers that are retted. They have they're bast fibers. They have the fiber comes from the stem rather than the flower as it does from cotton. And these fibers they're much more hardy in many more temperatures, so they take fewer chemical inputs during their cultivation stage. They're hardier against weeds, etc. And they take fewer chemical inputs in their processing. So those are, and they are obviously very good for upholstery and for drapery. So those are good choices for you to consider. As I said, there is some recycled polyester. There's also recycled cotton and recycled wool. And those fibers, cotton and wool, as single fibers, have been recycled for eons. They are very, very recyclable. So have a look and see whether recycled fibers are available from the vendors you prefer to work with. Next, we're going to talk about finishes a little bit. As I said, volatile organic compounds, which are polluting our indoor environments, are coming from finishes and from adhesives. How are they there? What are they doing there? Why are they coming from finishes and adhesives? It is because a petroleum-based finish has to have something to keep it liquid in the can before it's applied to the surface where it dries quickly. So there are synthetic and harmful chemicals that keep that finish liquid. And as the finish dries, those chemicals volatilize. That is, they turn from liquid to gas. They turn from being wet to being in the atmosphere above that product as it dries. Obviously, when the product leaves the factory, it is perfectly dry. But we all know that new product smell. That new product smell is the smell of the volatile organic compounds continuing to volatilize. And in fact, many of them do continue to volatilize even after we can smell them. And they, as we said earlier, have an adverse impact on our health. They irritate our lungs. They can make some people quite sick. formaldehyde, for instance, is directly associated with several cancers. So I suggest that you look for finishes that are either certified to be low VOC, maybe certified by Green Guard or certified by another certifier, and also look for water-based finishes, because water-based finishes are inherently less VOC laden. You can also look for finishes that are all natural materials. You might have heard a ladder in the background. That is because I'm having linseed oil applied to my house now. Linseed oil is an example of a natural oil that is not at all harmful and that works very well as a finish. Let's talk about cushioning. We in this industry use 1/3 of all the polyurethane foam that is used, and most of us who are sitting on a cushioned chair now are sitting on polyurethane foam, or a foam that is a mix of polyurethane, of petroleum-based molecules and of plant-based molecules that are put together to be what's called a biohybrid. These biohybrids do reduce the amount of petroleum product that is in the cushioning we're sitting on. And that is, it's a good thing to use less petroleum, finite resource and very polluting to extract. In cushioning, the most eco-friendly option is pure natural latex. And I want to be sure you understand that pure natural is an important part of what we are calling this material, because latex, like a latex mattress, is often only about 10% latex and is the rest petroleum-based molecules. So it's a mix of plant-based and petroleum-based inputs. It is, in fact, a biohybrid. So for a most eco-friendly foam rubber, use foam rubber that does, in fact, come from the rubber tree and is pure natural latex. We know it most for mattresses, but it can be made at different firmnesses, and you could talk to your manufacturers about whether they can provide that to you. Most of the biohybrids that we are using in the residential furnishings industry are a mix of soy and petroleum polyols, and it is a relatively small amount of plant-based content. I want to mention the natural outer layer cushionings like Kapok and down. Kapok and down are both old-fashioned solutions and are both known as luxury solutions. They are, in fact, much less environmentally intensive to have and use. And there, for outer cushioning, you can also choose a recycled polyester. This is something that is commonly available, much, much cheaper, and often made right here in the US of soda bottles and stuff. In cushioning, you want to be sure that you are avoiding flame retardant chemicals, which is a very big deal. Flame retardant chemicals are added to cushioning or to outer fabrics, and they are known not to be very effective in reducing fire risk, and they are very dangerous for our health and for the health of the firemen who come and put out a fire that is that includes burning upholstered furniture that's been treated with these chemicals that have not stopped the fire. So what I want to, bottom line, encourage you to do is think in terms of the entire life cycle of a product. Think about where the material is coming. Think about first what the material is. 80% of the environmental impact of any product, any consumer product, comes from what it's made of. So think about what it's made of. Think about that material and how that material might have been processed, whether it was intensive to process or easy to process the material, how and where the product is made, how it gets to where it is used by the consumer, and how long the consumer can use it, and then what happens at the end of the consumers using it. Is it something that can be passed on for generations and eventually will rot to good, clean dirt, or is it something that is going to end up being a toxin in our environment forever? Think about every product choice in those ways, if you can. I mean, it is complex, but it is what we do when we're being responsible. A life cycle assessment is a way of assessing what I've just described and coming up with a sort of report, coming up with a score that covers 1,300 different chemicals and the impacts of those chemicals on various aspects of life on our planet. What are the impacts that affect global warming? What are the impacts that affect the acidification of our soils and our water? What are the impacts in ozone depletion, in smog, so particulate pollution that is affecting our health, and other things that might affect our health? There is a standard for life cycle assessments developed by the International Standards Organization, and you can look for a certification for a life cycle assessment. You are not going to find many of those in residential furnishings these days, but when you are working with larger manufacturers, it is worth asking about them because they may have ISO 14000 series certification or other ISO certification that you want to know about. For your smaller suppliers and vendors, smaller manufacturers you work with, there are tools in the public domain that can be used to do a life cycle assessment, and some of them might have done that. So here, y'all, I have told you what I know. And I would like to now answer your questions. I know that there are some questions in the question box, and if you have any questions about anything I've said so far, please put it in the box and ask me. Okay, first question. I am looking at Pottery Barn furniture that is listed as non-toxic. Are you familiar with this line of furniture, and would you consider it sustainable? It's difficult to know who to trust, but the Pottery Barn is mainstream, and so I was hoping that this is a good choice. I think it probably is a good choice. Pottery Barn is part of the Williams-Sonoma group. They have made very strong commitments to environmental health and safety. And you can read the Williams-Sonoma Group's sustainability report at their website, and you can see what measures they're taking to reduce harmful chemical inputs across their whole across all their brands. So that, of course, includes Pottery Barn. Further, Pottery Barn, or the Williams-Sonoma Group in general, has a commitment to training their staff, and they have a commitment to transparency. So you should ask customer service about why the particular piece you are looking at is listed as non-toxic, and then specifically ask about the 5 harmful chemicals we've mentioned. VOCs like formaldehyde, highly fluorinated stain treatments, flame retardant chemicals, antimicrobials, and PVC. Ask specifically about those 5. If they tell you that the product includes any of those, ask them why they are claiming it's non-toxic, and see what kind of a response you can get. Very good question. Okay, let's see, another question, follow-up question on that. The furniture contains MDF, or medium density fiberboard, which, as y'all know, is basically dust of wood glued together with a lot of glue. Much of the MDF in our world, in our industry, is made using toxic glues. So glues that are off-gassing, glues that have high content of formaldehyde, etc. There is, however, MDF that is made with no added urea formaldehyde. Perhaps that is what they are using. You should ask. So there are those. Are those the only 2 questions we've got? Looks like those are the only questions we've got, unless I'm missing something. I will be happy to answer any other questions you might have or any other comments, but I think that's it. So y'all, thank you very much for, oops, here's a question. Okay, I'll repeat the 5 chemicals. The 5 chemicals, we'll just look at them. Here we go. These are the 5 chemicals. They are VOCs, volatile organic compounds like formaldehyde, and those are frequently coming from adhesives and finishes. They are flame retardant chemicals, which are frequently in upholstered furniture, but also in electronics. And the flame retardants are most often in the foam, but these days, in the last few years, there are more and more companies that are not putting it in the foam, but watch out, they might be putting it on the textiles. And if you're in California, and I know many of you are in Michigan, but if you're in California, there is a law label that says whether the furniture was made fire safe with added flame retardant chemicals or not. Furniture can be made perfectly fire safe with no added flame retardant chemicals. Fluorinated stain treatments, sometimes called, so these are what makes a lot of our performance fabrics. Not all of our performance fabrics. Sometimes a performance fabric is a polypropylene, which is inherently water resistant. It's a plastic basically, and you can make it really nice and soft, like you actually do want to have it in your living room. But chemical treatments on fabrics are the most common way we make performance fabrics these days. And those chemicals are most often what are called PFAS chemicals, or highly fluorinated chemicals, and they are damaging our health. Mostly we are exposed through our water systems, where the chemicals leak out of the factories where they are made. So here in North Carolina, in Wilmington, the whole city's water is contaminated with PFAS chemicals, which does cause health problems. Antimicrobials are another of the harmful chemicals that are commonly found in furnishings. They harm our health mostly when we absorb them through our skin. And most of us know about antimicrobials in hand sanitizer and soap, and some of the ones that have been used for years are being phased out. But in furnishings, we are most often exposed to antimicrobials from our mattresses, especially if it's a memory foam mattress. It's probably got antimicrobials in it, and we do absorb it through our skin. And so, you know, we even though there are sheets you're sleeping on instead of the mattress itself, you can be exposed that way. It can come up through your mattress. And then PVC or polyvinyl chloride or vinyl, just plain vinyl, most common plastic in the world, used in the furniture industry, sometimes in outdoor furnishings, plastic garden furniture, and it's used in a pliable form. So it is like a blow-up mattress is often PVC. And when it is a pliable form like that, it has further chemicals added, specifically phthalates, that make the health problems associated with it even worse. And now lots of other questions have come in. Good. So let's see. Do you recommend any certain retailers or wholesalers who can deal with designer in regards of buying or customizing sustainable furniture? Yes, I recommend that you go to sustainablefurnishings.org and use the finder on the homepage of our website. So go to sustainablefurnishings.org. There is a finder there. Any of the companies that are in that finder, and you can use it for something specific like living room or dining room or something like that, any of them are going to be able to tell you why they are calling themselves sustainable, and they're going to be able to answer your questions about specific products, like the questions we were talking about for the Pottery Barn customer service people. And as somebody is commenting, the horrible smell, vinyl smell in my cousin's convertible car, perhaps this is why I have migraines now. Could be. It is a harmful chemical. Which performance fabrics don't use fluorinated chemical treatments? Well, those that are made of polypropylene, one of the brands is Revolution Performance Fabrics, and Inside Outside Perform Inside Out, the one that Valdez Weavers makes, is some of that is free of fluorinated chemical treatments. Companies that have integrity like those are going to be able to tell you what theirs are made of. Are bleach cleanable fabrics considered hazardous? There are a ton of bleach cleanable fabrics now on the market. Many of these are, in fact, the ones that are like Revolution Performance Fabrics, or the one that Valdez makes. They are bleachable because they're basically plastic, and they're not going to absorb the bleach. And the bleach itself, of course, is hazardous. It does include dioxins that are used in its manufacture, and that is hazardous. But the bleach, the thing about the polypropylenes is that the fabric is made from a material that comes from, it's a byproduct of the fracking industry. So instead of burning off the flares, they capture the gas and they somehow convert it into a fiber. Olefin was the first brand name of it. And that fiber that fiber, of course, is related to the petroleum industry and related to fracking, but using the byproduct is not necessarily worse. Than, what we need to do is use less gas and oil. But as long as we're using the byproduct for this fiber is a good idea. Okay, regarding flame retardants, sometimes there are manufacturers that tell me their products do not contain flame retardants listed, that they use flame barriers. As far as I know, as a chemist, flame barriers are made out of flame retardants. Do you agree with my view, or am I being oversensitive to the issue? Now, you are absolutely right that sometimes the barrier is made effective with the addition of chemicals. Sometimes it is inherently effective. For instance, a wool barrier is inherently a flame retardant. So it does depend, but you are right to be asking. And flame barriers, a layer of something there. It is a popular solution. It is a popular solution. However, I want y'all to know that if the upholstery is a natural material or woven in a certain way, it can be perfectly fire safe. So that piece of furniture can be made fire safe with neither barrier nor added flame retardant chemicals. So be sure to talk about this with your vendors, and they may or may not tell you what the chemicals and the barriers are, but do try to find out. The chemical industry is, of course, notoriously secretive. Okay. Next question. Luxury vinyl plank is so popular now. Should we avoid that? Well, it is vinyl. It is vinyl. So it is causing harm to the environment and to the health of the people. Now, some of these vinyl planks do off-gas. They off-gas them carefully before they sell them. So it's not going to be equal of the various brands of vinyl plank. Some of them are going to be more harmful inside your client's home than others, harmful to their health. But the vinyl is going to off gas. That's going to cause harm to human health, and making it, and if that house, God forbid, were to burn down, burning it, it's toxic right the way around. All right. Let's see, and now we're about out of time, and there are lots of questions, so I'll be glad to point you to answers if we don't get to all of them right now. I think somebody better tell me, do y'all have another session right now? I think maybe you do, but maybe you don't, so I'll respond right quick. How do you respond when people say, I'm not sick from using vinyl? How do you encourage them to change products? Make sure they know it's a choice. It is a choice. They might prefer vinyl. You might prefer to offer them vinyl plank. Make sure they know it's a choice, and just emphasize what some of the consequences of some of the choices might be. Why haven't all the memory foam mattress companies mentioned the caution of the absorbent of antimicrobial treatment? They don't have to. It's not legally required that they do, and of course they're not going to talk about it. I recommend that you all read a website called 6classes.org and educate yourselves more about these harmful chemicals, and then use that information as you go to have the conversation with your vendors. There are links, of course, on our website on the What's It Made Of page. There are links to 6classes.org. So have a look there. The question is, vinyl plank a flooring product? Yes. Will there be a replay of this presentation? Yes, it's recorded, and it will be on our YouTube channel, which you can access from sustainablefurnishings.org. So that's it. That's it, y'all. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for having had me with you here today. It's been a pleasure, and I will look forward to continued conversations with you. Bye now.